Hey guys. Today's lecture is a little bit different. We're going to have a look at some study skills. Partly because I've been tracking the statistics of how much you guys have been interacting with Moodle, and I'm a bit concerned, and partially because this is a good time to just check in and have a look at your strategy. University, even first year university, very different from high school. Science units are very different from business units or arts units, which you might be more used to. So studying for them is a little bit different. Um, Going to talk about a couple things. First thing is just getting the basics right. Second thing is finding a place to get free marks. And there is places where very small amounts of effort are going to give you really significant feedback, really significant results, sorry, in terms of just getting more marks. And some of those marks are basically free marks because they take very little effort. I would like you guys to get all the free marks that are possible. So, why is university harder? Specifically, why is it harder in 2020? Well, there are a lot more distractions in university in general than in school, right? So a lot more things to do. You don't have to be at classes 6 hours a day. For those of you who are engineering students, you have to be at classes like 12 hours a day, but this is not an engineering subject. You don't have 50 hours of class time. In 2020, that's even more so because all the classes are online, so it's very easy to miss classes. On top of that, there is a lot less feedback. What that means is for a lot of students, they're used to getting a lot of feedback from their instructors, especially from teachers. And that doesn't happen at university. Now, when you make it online, it happens a lot less. So normally you guys would see me for 2, 3 lectures a week. I like to ask lots of questions in my lectures, and I'll call you out and get you to stay afterwards if I feel like you're not understanding what we're doing. I can't do that in the way we've structured this semester. When we're doing stuff online, and we're doing it online because pre-recorded because I can't be sure everybody has equally good internet. There is a lot less feedback than there would normally be. So if you're used to high school, there's a lot less feedback, and even in a normal year at university, there's a lot less feedback. And that's problematic because feedback is one of the ways that we judge how well we're doing. So a lot of students get super stressed out. They think they're doing really badly, but they don't have any evidence they're doing badly. They just don't have any evidence at all. So at the moment, you haven't done an assessment. You don't know how well you're doing. What I would say currently, to figure out how well you're doing, have a look at how many classes you've watched. If you're up to date with the lectures and you understood everything in the lectures, you're probably doing fairly well. If you're falling behind in lectures already, that's a problem. And I know that about half of you guys are. You've missed at least one lecture. That's not great, guys. You need to jump on that. Secondly, if you're listening to lectures and you understand everything, you're doing great. If you don't understand everything, you should be sending in messages or even better, putting questions in the online forum. For those of you for whom it's their first year, they're not used to this pace because universities pace much faster than high school. So to give you guys an idea, I've taught high school biology and math. What takes 2 years in high school, I do in about 2 months in university. So we're that much faster than the school syllabus. And one of the reasons for this is the emphasis is on study rather than homework. I don't set your homework. I'm not like, go do this before Friday. I expect you guys are going to be studying the subject independently. That can mean going back through lectures. It means making your own notes. It can be asking questions. It can be using the forums. When we put up extra bonus readings, it can be doing those. All of that stuff is important. And that's not homework. I'm not assigning that to you. You have to do it for yourself. Now, obviously, the other thing is we live in a world where there are much more distractions than there were even 10 years ago. So there are many things competing for your attention. There's me, there's your phone. Often your phone's going to win, but your phone's not going to pass you in this unit. You need to find ways to manage the distractions so that you can get enough work done to do as well as you want to do in the subject. Now is the time to try to fix that. So if you guys come to me in the last week of semester and you say, hey, I haven't listened to any lectures, what should I do now? My answer is enroll next semester because you've got no chance of passing. Now is the time to jump on that to fix that. And obviously, if you're watching this lecture, you probably watch the other lectures. So you're probably fine. But manage your phone, manage internet distractions, manage your jobs, because a lot of you guys are working while you're studying, because this is a year where you can do that. And that's all fine, but you have to manage that time. We're going to talk about a couple ways to do that. So what I want you to understand about university is the first semester is always kind of shit. You don't really know anybody. In this semester, it's even harder to make friends. It's just a hard semester. You haven't learned this way before. Typically, you're not used to the style that we teach lectures in as opposed to classes. And so everything feels a bit different and very uncomfortable. Lots of students drop out. I want to encourage you guys that that first semester is always bad. It gets better after first semester. The other thing that I want you to understand is that the full-time university workload was designed for no job and no serious sporting commitments. If you're working 3 days a week, this is going to be very hard to do while you're doing that. And you might want to consider dropping to 75% of course load. If you're one of those people who's in 14 representative sporting teams, at the moment you're probably just practicing, I'm assuming, because you can't play games. Even that is going to take up so much time and is going to make your workload difficult. And arguably, full-time university workload is designed for people who make university the focus of their life for a couple of years. If you have hobbies you're super passionate about outside university, if you spend half the summer and fall fishing, it's going to be really easy to get behind in your classes. My next question is, do you need to finish university in the shortest possible time? So in some cases you will, and you're going to need particular postgrad requirements. So if you're going to med school or you want to get into vet school, and I know that's a bunch of you guys, you need to think about the requirements for med school and the requirements for vet school, and both those have course load requirements. So you need to take a certain amount of units a semester. You need to keep a certain GPA, especially for med school. We're really strict on that. If you're not going to one of those two things, why are you trying to finish university in the shortest possible time? What else can you do to be more competitive after your undergraduate degree? Now, most of you guys who are in Egypt at the moment, you're not biology students. Most of you are business students. I teach business as well, and I'm going to ask you guys the same question I ask my business class every year. It applies to the biology kids just as much. What are you doing outside of coursework to be competitive in your career? Because you are going to graduate at the end of this degree. Now, if you're in Canada and you're doing business, there's about 20,000 other kids that do business. If you're in Egypt, the numbers aren't that much smaller. If you're doing biology, you've probably got about 15,000 other graduates each year. And there's probably not 15,000 jobs in total in the field across the country. Altogether, not just each year, not just for new graduates. So you're competing against a pool of people who have exactly the same degree you do. You need to be doing stuff to make you stand out from those people. And I know a lot of you guys are in first year and you're like, oh, but I'm in first year. I get it. Start in first year. So your study plan should be part of an integrated plan to get you from where you are now, which is first couple of years of university, into a career. Every now and again I throw up videos on things like salary negotiation, career networking, just career building skills. Those will just be on the website. On the YouTube page. I might link to them on the Moodle site. These are not accessible. You don't have to watch them. You don't even have to care. They're up there if you feel like it, if you want to build a plan to get you from where you are now into a career. So the default is everybody does uni full time. That may not be best for you. It wasn't best for me. I was working 2 jobs while I was at uni. I couldn't keep my grades to the level I wanted them to be at while working 2 jobs. So I took 3/4 course load so that I could work the jobs and keep the grades up. You don't have to play the game everybody else is playing. Okay? And remember that first year of university is just tough. It does get better. All right, so next question, something people are always interested to find out. Why do we actually grade? Usually when I grade, I'm assessing your skills compared to the job requirements. If you do this subject, I expect you to come out with an understanding of environmental science. Now, not perfect understanding, but some understanding of environmental biology and environmental science, and it's going to build towards a qualification that lets you do a particular job. So the easiest one that I can talk about is my 4th year unit, conservation genetics, or when I teach at med school. So in med school, it's really simple, right? I grade because at the end of the subject, I'm assuming that you have those skills, and if you don't have those skills as a doctor, you're going to kill somebody. In conservation genetics, I grade because I need to test whether you have the skills to run a conservation program. If you run the conservation program badly, you're going to send entire species extinct, and that'll be on you. So back before I came to Canada, there's a species of wallaby. They brought the conservation genetics plan to me. So I wrote what we were going to do with the species over the next 25 years to keep it alive. If I didn't know what I was doing, the species would have gone extinct. That's why we grade. Because we're comparing you to a set of job requirements. That means that when I'm grading, I'm not looking at how smart you are. Nor am I looking at how good you are at science. I know lots of people who get terrible grades who are incredible at actual science. I'm looking at how well prepared you are. How well you understood what I told you I was going to assess on, how well you prepared for that assessment, and what you delivered. If you get bad grades, if your mark isn't very good in the first assessments coming up this week, it's a problem with how you're preparing. So what are you doing to prepare? If you get bad grades, what it means is the strategy you use to prepare is shit, you need to change it. It doesn't mean you aren't smart. It doesn't mean you aren't working hard. It means the strategy you're using isn't working. So then there are many parts of the strategy that you can change. And here's some simple stuff. The amount of time you spend studying. Your activities that you do when you're studying. So the amount of time you spend studying. If you spend no time studying, I expect you're going to get fairly bad grades. If you spend too much time studying, and I've got at least one student who does that at the moment, you get to a point where it becomes harder to study. You have diminishing returns. So that doesn't work either. Most people, their problem is they don't spend long enough. But yeah, when during the day you study. If you're trying to study at 11 o'clock at night while the other person in your dorm room is having a party, not that you should be having parties this year, but that's not going to work, right? So the second one is your approach to study or the activities you do. If you spend time reading the lecture notes or in other subjects reading the textbook, that's not an effective strategy. It doesn't work with how your brain remembers things. Your brain remembers about 20 to 30% of what you read, 18 to 30% of what you read. That's really low proportion. Remembers about 70% of what you write down. So I would write notes. And in fact, it remembers more notes if you write them in pen than if you type them on a computer. So the activities you do are really important. When and where you study is really important. If you're studying on your bed, you may as well be going to sleep. If you study with your phone in your hand or in front of the TV, just watch TV. Take the time to relax. You're not getting anything done with that study anyway. So where and when is super important. You want to study at a time when you're alert. For some of you guys, that means morning. For some of you, that means evening. You want to study in a location that's set up for you to study well. Natural light, airflow, no distractions. So if I set up a study area, I don't have my phone on the same table so I can't look at it. In many cases, I don't study with my computer because it's really easy to jump on YouTube and look up something dumb. Sometimes I will because I'm looking up particular resources. Where and when is super important. The last one that's important is who with. Who you're studying with. Now this is the reason why we put up the threads for each lab group on the Moodle site. I want you guys to find ways to work together. I know that's harder this semester, but you have Skype, you have Zoom, you have phones, you're all pretty smart. You will figure it out. If you're in the class in Egypt, we don't have labs, which means I need you to find ways to work with your classmates. I may just assign you to groups that I want to work together. Now, I'm going to do that for this subject. You have to do that for the rest of your subjects. This learning is not an individual-based sport. 100-meter sprint is an individual-based sport. I don't care how good you are at 100-meter sprint. In learning, I'm only assessing how good you are compared to the job requirements. So if studying with 3 other people who are good helps you to get good compared to the job requirements, great, do that. In fact, in your professional life, it's very rare that you have to work on a project by yourself. The only time I've ever had to work on stuff entirely alone is when there was confidentiality and we literally couldn't tell anybody about it. That's happened like 3 times in my career. The rest of the time, leveraging other people I could work with was the smart call. I want you guys to make the smart call. Working together is smart. So find ways to work together. When you study, I want you to set a target. We're going to come back to this bit in part 2.